Namaste. Thank you, Bobby, and thank you, VillageGate, for creating this. Thank you all for coming. This is a very, very special opportunity. And I'm here to talk about nothingness, stillness, silence, and how by accessing that space between our actions, between our words, between our thoughts, between our breaths, we can truly connect and awaken our most divine, our most powerful, and our most genuine selves. Now, quietude is not necessarily celebrated in our world. In fact, in our world, in this go-go, kooky world, stillness, meditation, silence are seen as unproductive. Now, meditation has been scientifically proven to increase your concentration, your focus, your learning, your memory, to boost your immune system and relieve pain, to connect you with a deeper sense of self, to increase your understanding of others, and to deliver peace of mind. But in this go-go, kooky world, activity is celebrated, and multitasking is applauded. So the fact that silence is seen as unproductive, the fact that it's frowned upon, the fact that meditation is looked upon, in some cases, as only for woo-woos, for new agers, for cult members, where somehow it conflicts with your relationship to God. But if prayer is talking to God, then meditation is truly listening to that voice. When we can slow ourselves down, so slow, and quiet the fluctuations of our mind, we can hear the whispers of our heart. We can hear the whispers of God. And in that moment, we'll make more conscious choices. We'll make better decisions. We'll come from a space of openness. We'll come from a space of divinity. And so each one of us has the opportunity to connect to that stillness, to connect to that silence on a daily basis. And in so doing, we can all awaken this conversation, this connection, this communion between ourselves and our most divine selves, allowing us to live our lives with greater grace, greater understanding, greater purpose, and deeper fulfillment. So before I begin any class, pretty much I ask people, what's the number one thing you're looking or hoping to get out of locking down your meditation practice? And the most common thread from hundreds of thousands of my students is stress management. And so let's explore. Anybody here ever experienced stress in their life? So what's the definition of stress? Stress is how we respond when our needs are not met. When our need for safety, when our need for security is not met, our natural response is known as fight, flight. In less than 5 seconds, the second you sense a threat to your physiology, you start to perspire so that you can cool down, and the body-mind says, you've got about 5 minutes. It's a sprint, not a marathon. You need to either fight that threat or run from it. So to aid in that process, we start breathing more shallowly, our blood starts pumping more quickly, stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, glucagon, which is like eating 5 Snickers bars at once, surge into our body. And the body says, we don't need to be thinking about sex right now. Let's shut down the sex hormone. We don't need to be thinking about building cells. Let's shut down our growth hormone. And we definitely don't need to be fighting germs. In 5 minutes, there may not be the need to ever fight a germ, ever again. So let's shut down the immune system. The hard parts of our blood, the platelets that flow through the plasma, become plump and sticky because the mind-body knows we could be cut. And it starts clotting before that even happens. That's when our physical need is not met. When our emotional needs are not met, those are our needs of attention, affection, appreciation, acceptance. When those needs are not met, we pretty much do the emotional version of fight-flight. Someone criticizes us, or someone says something and we're feeling less than, and we launch back in aggressively. We attack that. Or we shut down, we withdraw, we detach. It's like, whatever, talk to the hand. And so we live our lives on this planet of 8 billion people, bouncing between fight-flight response and reactive response when our needs are not met. Meditators have a third gear. It's known as restful awareness. In restful awareness, you respond exactly the opposite of fight-flight. Your perspiration comes down. Your breath becomes long and deep as opposed to shallow and quick. Your heart doesn't race, it slows. Your blood pressure comes down. Glucagon, adrenaline, cortisol, they all get suppressed, while growth hormone, sex hormone, and your immune system elevate. And those hard parts of your blood, the platelets, they become thinner and more diffuse and flow more easily through your bloodstream. We've been talking about the benefits of meditation for thousands and thousands of years, but only in the last 18 months, as modern technological advances and brain imaging software advances have come to the fore, that's when we're finally able to look into the mind of the meditator and see what's going on. The most recent study, University of Massachusetts, Mass General, 16 test subjects, 8 weeks, that's 56 days. They all meditated for 30 minutes every single day. MRIs were wired up to their brains before, during, and after the study. And at the end of the study, here was the amazing conclusion. Meditation actually changes the physical structure of your brain. In all 16 test subjects, their hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for learning, for memory, for spatial orientation, the gray matter expanded in all 16 of them. And in all 16 of them, their amygdala, the part of our brain responsible for fear, stress, anger, anxiety, shrunk. So now we know that meditation actually changes the physical structure of your brain. I'd like to start a campaign, if we could all, to shrink your amygdala. So, shrink it. Get out there and shrink our amygdala. Now, we have 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That's one thought every 1.2 seconds. They're coming. This is not a thought repellent. You will not stop it. They are coming into your awareness. And as they come into our awareness, they can swirl us up, and we can get caught up in that and get engaged in that process. Now, since everyone has thoughts, the fact that you're having too many thoughts is not really a big deal. What meditation allows us to do is introduce a pattern interrupt into that flow of thoughts. Imagine that your mind is like a turbulent ocean when it's actively engaged in thought. And your mind is like a placid lake when you're in stillness. Which would you like to choose? Every time we meditate, we reach back through all those thoughts, all this swirl of activity, and dip our fingers in, dip our toes into our unconditioned, quiet, placid lake of stillness. And when we come out of meditation, we take back a thimbleful of stillness, a tweezerful of silence. the smallest little eyedropper full of your unconditioned self. And once you've taken a teeniest piece of that into your physiology, into your emotional state, from that moment on, all of your choices are less reflexive and more reflective. All of the decisions that you make in life come from a place of responsiveness and not reactivity. You're less knee-jerk and more purposeful. You're less conditioned and more unconditioned. And when you can make more decisions from an unconditioned, expansive place, then every single decision you make from that moment on, there's a greater amount of emotional intelligence, allowing you to make more conscious choices in your life. So let's take a pulse of the room here. How many of you have never meditated before in your life? It's okay, don't be shy. We all were there one day. And how many of you have been meditating every single day for an hour a day for 20 years? Exactly. And how many of you are, you started, you stopped, fell on, fell off? Any crisis meditators out there? Wherever you are in that practice, you can take this moment to act as your jump start, because cultivating a daily ritual is the key to proactively meeting the universe on a day-to-day basis. It's that proactive aspect as opposed to our reactive aspect. And if we can wake up every morning, bring some stillness and silence into us, and then that becomes the trajectory from every other moment of our day, that's going to have a very different response than if we wake up, dive in, and we're trying to react to everything that's swirling around us. Ritualizing it is the most important thing that you can do. Ritualizing your daily practice. I've developed a technique. Hundreds of thousands of people around the world use it. It's called RPM. Rise, P, meditate. Within 35 minutes of you opening your eyes, you've got a half hour of stillness and silence that greets every single moment, and that's your trajectory over the course of the day. But every meditation practice starts with the first meditation. So let's do a few right here. I know there's a lot of people under 20 here, and I figured you can look at this when you're in class, and we can do this right now. It's called a mindful meditation. Don't move, gaze straight ahead, focus on something right in front of you, and slowly expand your gaze until you're at 180 degrees. That's called evolution, mindful meditation. And when you're as wide as possible, taking in everything, taking in fabrics and colors and textures and other people's outfits, don't judge anything here, just absorb it all in, and then move that attention, move that awareness right back down to that one dot. By doing that practice a couple of times a day, especially when you're in a new environment, it increases your awareness. When you're in the car, I know it's the unthinkable, but how about driving without turning on the radio, without turning on the iPod, without popping in a CD, just actually absorbing the stillness and silence that's around you, even if you can only handle that for 5 minutes at a time. What a beautiful way to start your drive. Before a test, a class presentation, the big game, I recommend 5 minutes of taking a time in. Squirrel away someplace, lock the door, and visualize you being brilliant. Whether that's checking all the right boxes and scoring brilliantly, or kicking a goal, or running faster than everybody else, or how about in a board meeting when you're hanging out at work, knowing that you'll be brilliant in that moment. Take that 5 minutes and visualize that, and then take 5 minutes and truly say to yourself, repeat over and over silently, I am. I am. Do that for 5 minutes. So 5 and 5. Take a time in, and then show up. and you'll be more successful and more powerful than you ever imagined. At home, when your parents are fighting. Or how about at home, when you're fighting with your children? Now's the time for a metta meditation. Use your heart as your lungs and breathe in. Let's do it together, slowly. Breathe into your heart, feel loving kindness, feel your heart, and then as you radiate it out, as you exhale, feel that loving kindness touch everyone in your life, especially the person you may be fighting with, especially a person that you have a grievance with, especially a person that you're not getting along with. That metta meditation, breathing in and radiating out, that loving kindness can make a powerful difference. And lastly, when someone makes you angry, reach for soda. Everyone here has an emotional tell, a trigger that tells them something is building up. I think I'm going to pop. For some of us, it's our stomach flipping. Others, it's our chest tightening, or our throat closing, or our temples throbbing. With me, it's heat building up in my neck. The second I feel that heat building up, I know I'm getting a little irritated or frustrated. The world is safe as long as that heat doesn't cross my jawline. But once it does, I could scorch the building. So in that moment, reach for soda. Identify your emotional tell and reach for soda. S, stop in that moment. O, observe yourself. I often float up to the top of the room and look down on me and the other individual. D, detach. Take a deep breath in and step back. And A, awaken to your most divine self. Awaken to your best version. In that moment, in that special, amazing moment where you've just disconnected from emotional charge, you'll come back into that situation with a lot more grace, a lot more stillness, and a lot more conscious choice making. These are our choices. What do we want? What will we do with our lives? Will we choose to be more expansive, abundant, reflective, conscious, or constricted and limited and fearful? Meditation can be that step that allows us to truly be the ones we've been waiting for. When we go home tonight, let's spend a couple of minutes in stillness and silence, and then come back into the world with grace and ease. We transform the world by transforming ourselves. Namaste.